right.
So we have this struggle going on in Chicago. In 1988, a reform group changed the law so that now principals are hired and fired by local school councils in every school, and we have 506 of them in Chicago. The principals have no tenure, but 4-year contracts. Some schools have had 4 principals in the 6 years since the law passed, depriving these schools of leadership continuity without which nothing happens. And just like everybody else, if you do not train and educate people to assume the roles you create for them to do in a society, they will try to use their former experience in order to construct that role. So when they created local school councils and had these elections and elected all of these people to these local school councils for these 506 schools, they did not provide them with any training. They did not provide them with any education. So the people did what anyone would do. They constructed their role according to the only model they knew, which was the Democratic Party patronage model.
All right.
And that's what they do. Ladies and gentlemen, in Chicago, nobody cares whether our children learn to read. Nobody. It's enough to break your heart. You walk into these schools, ladies and gentlemen, and you see our children in there wanting to learn, anxious to learn, with teachers who don't give a damn, who don't even try, who give excuses and excuses and excuses, and who still get their paychecks, still get promoted. And the teachers who are trying, let's don't leave them out. The teachers in there who are trying get discouraged. They get discouraged. How would you feel if you knocked yourself out with 30 little kids for 180 days, and when you finished with them, they had grown 3 and 4 years in reading, and then you sent them to a sucker who didn't do anything for the year, and when you saw them again, they had lost everything that you taught them?
In her powerful and unapologetic lecture, Black people still don't get it. Dr. Barbara Sizemore delivers a searing critique of the failures of the American school system, and more importantly, the Black community's complicity in the educational neglect of Black children. Drawing from her background as an educator, scholar, and activist, Dr. Sizemore argues that schools are not only failing Black students, but are actively producing failure through a system that neither serves nor empowers them. The crisis is not just academic, it is spiritual, cultural, and communal. Black students are being raised in environments where the adults tasked with nurturing them are either unequipped or uninterested in their success. This includes teachers, administrators, and even parents. Many students are passed through the system without ever being properly taught how to read, comprehend, or critically think. Dr. Sizemore emphasizes that while there are dedicated teachers who genuinely care, they are outnumbered, overwhelmed, and often unsupported. These educators work in hostile environments where mediocrity and failure are normalized, and where Black children are viewed as problems to be managed rather than minds to be cultivated. The few who resist this narrative are often burnt out, underpaid, and disillusioned. Meanwhile, many parents place the full responsibility of education on the school system, expecting teachers to do for their children what they are unwilling to do themselves, namely, nurture their minds, read to them, and instill discipline and pride. The reading comprehension scores for Black children remain alarmingly low, a situation that Dr. Sizemore believes could be radically improved if parents and communities made literacy a daily ritual at home.
How would you feel? You can't do this to these teachers. We can't do this to these teachers. We can't do this to these teachers. We've got to make these schools places that work for our children.
That's right.
And that's our responsibility, ladies and gentlemen. That's our responsibility. We cannot send our children to these schools, I don't care whether public, private, or parochial, and abandon your children in there and expect people to do what you should be doing for them. Wow. It's not going to happen, ladies and gentlemen. And if you think it is, you still don't get it. You just don't get it. You just don't get it. At face value, as I said, the abandonment of the test looks like a good deal for African Americans until you view it in the setting of this whole society. And then when you look at it that way, it takes on another face. Ladies and gentlemen, you cannot make it in this society if you cannot read.
Well, say it again. It is. It is.
Our children are coming out of the high school and they can't read. They can't read. And our children are normal, ladies and gentlemen. Our children are normal. But we allow people to say they're not. Every time you sign a blue sheet sending a black kid to educably mentally handicapped, you're saying this is not a normal child. Listen, God did not create that many dumb black people. God didn't do that. You're doing it. These children just need to be taught. They need to be taught. They need to be taught. In 1932, Carter G. Woodson told us if a child doesn't learn, the child needs to be studied, not abandoned, not penalized, not put away, not labeled, studied, so that you can teach him or her. We're not doing that. We don't even expect teachers to do it. We don't even expect them to do it. We expect them to stand up in TV. I saw them just yesterday on TV saying, oh, my kids are crack babies. And, well, that's 1%. What about all those that are not crack babies that can't read? My parents don't come to school. No, they work in 3 jobs. My parents don't do this and whatever. All these excuses, ladies and gentlemen, that you and I know are not true. Raise your hand if you were born with money. You had all the money you needed. Raise your hand. I want to see them. You could learn to read, and you were poor. How many of you had only one parent? Grew up with only one parent? Okay, how many of y'all can read? Yeah, well, okay. Then why do you let teachers get away with this? Why do you do this? Why do you let them stand up on TV and let them say this and then give them a raise? You got, hey, ladies and gentlemen, still don't get it. Just don't get it. What has happened to our group pride, our group culture, our group advancement, group charity? We don't even want to take care of each other. We don't even want to. I go around to middle class people like me and say, let's raise some money, get some place for these people to live that's homeless. I got to pay for my bills. I got a $500 note on my car. Yeah, okay. Who cares anymore about the students?
Nobody.
Our children. Who is responsible for seeing that they survive? We have proceeded with political strategies as though politics can be considered separately from economic strategies. This won't work.
It won't work.
We've got to stop spending all our money as consumers, and we've got to learn to be producers and owners.
That's right.
Listen, our children do not need 2 weeks of sharing in kindergarten. They need 2 weeks of ownership. They need to learn what it means to own something.
That's right.
You need in every school that you find African Americans to have them open a bank account. Every single kid in the school, open a bank account. Learn how to save money so that they can pool their money and have a business. That's the way you make it here.
That's right.
We have no way to sanction leaders who don't lead, teachers who don't teach, principals who don't principal, preachers who don't advance the group, politicians who don't represent our interests, businessmen who don't help the group, athletes and entertainers who sell out. We don't have any way to sanction these folks.
That's right. That's right.
I was standing in the record, no, they don't call them records anymore. We call those things, George. What do you call them, little round things? CDs. I was in there, the little girl was buying a CD by this foul group that denigrates women. So I went up to her and I said, why are you buying that? And so she looked at me and she said, you got a problem, what's happening? And I said, I said, look, do you know how he talks about you in that record, on that record? And she said, no, I don't listen to the words, I just like the music. So I said, look, this man talks about you like you're a living dog. I said, and now and that he calls you by the dog's name, bitch. I said, and you gonna pay money to take that home and participate in your own denigration? So she looked at me and she said, I don't listen to the words. I said, listen to them. I said, you listen to them. Because what you're doing is contributing to your own destruction. Right? We know these people. You and I know who these people are, but we go support them with our dollars, go see them, give them money. The best way you can bring these entertainers down if you don't like them is don't spend your money with them. We worship consumerism. Oh my God, brothers and sisters, we worship consumerism and materialism, and as though selfishness is a virtue, just like Ayn Rand teaches. In fact, I have lived long enough to see a new Rand disciple who is black and female. Oh, God have mercy. The struggle for equality will not occur without a group effort, ladies and gentlemen. Individualism is not the way other groups advance in this society. Wealth is accumulated by one, but passed on by the group, by the family, by the business, by the institution, by the organization. The Kennedy fortune, the Rockefeller empires, those were begun by one person but passed on and increased by the group effort.
That's right.
That is the nature of the company,
That's right.
the heart and engine of capitalism. The Millionaires Club, formed in the African American community largely by entertainers and athletes, passes on what and to whom. Except for a few of them, like Bill Cosby, it seems to be too little and too late. It is more important to us to buy a $40,000 car than to give $10,000 to Philander Smith College or Tougaloo. Right. We just don't get it, ladies and gentlemen. Black people just don't get it. Right. There are not enough people like Ruth Hare in Philadelphia who accumulated wealth which she invested to pay the college tuitions and fees for a group of 6th graders if and when they graduated from high school. One Benz would pay 4 years of college for somebody.
All right.
Okay. Raise your hand if you think Bill Clinton is going to be the father to our children. Raise your hand if you think the Democrats are going to take care of our elderly.
All right.
I know you don't think the Republicans are going to do anything for us.
All right.
If it is to happen, we have to do it. If not, ladies and gentlemen, we will not survive.
All right.
We will not survive.
All right.
You remember things fall apart? And the white man put a knife to our people, and things fell apart. That will surely happen to us if we don't get it.
All right.
In her 1979 dissertation, Carolyn Elaine Bennett Murray wrote the following: when teachers made causal attributions about the importance of their own characteristics in determining a successful performance for a student, they tended to perceive themselves as more responsible for a successful outcome for students belonging to a subordinate group, blacks, lower class, those failing in school, than to a superordinate group. If the superordinate kids failed, it was the teacher's fault. But if the black kids failed, it was their fault. Okay? However, counter to prediction, teachers perceive themselves as more responsible for a successful performance by black middle-class students than black lower-class students. But not so with whites. White middle-class students were responsible for their success, but black middle-class children's success was due to their teacher. And a reverse pattern of responding resulted when black middle-class and lower-class students failed. Teachers preferred, ladies and gentlemen, to teach black lower-class students over black middle-class students. The major implication of Bennett Murray's findings is, to the extent that positive sentiments manifest themselves in rewards. A minority student will often be rewarded for failure and punished for success. Hence, the differential level of scholastic achievement observed among students of various socioeconomic and racial backgrounds may have less to do with tangibles, such as books, buildings, equipment, and so forth, than to do with intangibles, such as the differential expectations of causal attributions and sentiments expressed by the teacher for the student. Here we find that teachers tend to like, that is, express positive sentiment toward, students whose characteristics live up to their expectations. Hence, since smart African American students do not live up to the teacher's low expectations for African American students, they do not like them. So the African American student in schools is damned if he does and damned if he doesn't. Now tell me, who wants to stay in school under these conditions? Yet, many African American teachers behave in the same way, disregarding their tradition of pride, honor, intelligence, and struggle. I do not know what has happened to us, ladies and gentlemen, over the 40 years that I've been in education. How did we arrive in this place? The white man has put the knife to what binds us together, and now things fall apart. After all of this history, struggle, the great men and women, Frederick Douglass, Harriet Tubman, Martin Delany, Sojourner Truth, W.E.B. Du Bois, Ida B. Wells Barnett, Booker T. Washington, Mary Church Terrell, Martin Luther King Jr., Rosa Parks, Malcolm X, and Betty Shabazz, Leonard Jeffries, Shashi McIntyre, Donald Smith, and Alton Maddox. We still don't get it. Thank you.
She issues a bold and uncomfortable question to her audience. Why do you allow the schools, your communities, and even yourselves to fail your children and still do nothing about it? This question is both an indictment and call to action. Dr. Sizemore challenges the notion that external systems are solely to blame for the plight of black youth. Instead, she turns the mirror inward, exposing the painful truth. Black America has become too passive, too disengaged, and too accepting of its own decline. We have lost the love for ourselves and each other. We have allowed systems of oppression to fracture our unity, erode our values, and distract us from the mission of liberation through education. Throughout the lecture, Dr. Sizemore calls for a cultural awakening that centers the education and empowerment of black children as a community-wide priority. She argues that we must build a collective consciousness rooted in accountability, love, and action. Our children must see us working together, parents, teachers, elders, and neighbors, to solve our problems and to build something stronger. They must witness what it looks like when a people rise in love and responsibility for their own. For Dr. Sizemore, community education is not optional. It is revolutionary. It is the foundation upon which black freedom, self-respect, and progress must be built. In conclusion, black people still don't get it. It's not just a lecture. It is a prophetic warning and a passionate plea. Dr. Sizemore exposes the crisis of black education as both a symptom and a symbol of deeper community dysfunction. She urges black America to wake up, reclaim its children, and to reestablish a culture of excellence, love, and accountability. Education must become a sacred duty, not an outsourced task. Until we get it, truly get it, we will remain complicit in the very systems that keep our children bound.